I don't believe in rules.
Yeah.
I believe in guidelines. We go by guidelines, no rules.
Yeah.
Guidelines are to make everybody work together. Rules are bullshit because then you get disciplined for breaking them.
Yeah.
And when you're with me, you get as much time as you need.
But how is it going? How's life?
Life or tour, which
Both.
is one and the same.
Yeah.
Life is great, tour is great. I got in, today is Monday, and I got into the UK via Heathrow on Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice incoming. It was a very lonely trip. And then I was telling Ian earlier that it's doing an interview. I was like at a loss for what to do because I got into London. I had to get to Oxford to the bus.
Yeah.
So I found a bus. I got to Oxford, and then I had about 8 hours to kill.
Yeah.
So I bought a bag of rice, and I went to City Center and just fed pigeons and drank 3 cups of coffee and got cracked out on that, and then found the bus like 8 hours later. So that was my visit to the
Nice.
UK, and then played last night in Nottingham and was scared to death, and it was a great time.
Yeah. Nice chilled out trip then, but big crowds.
Yeah, that's why I mean scared to death.
Yeah.
But right on, it keeps you alive, right?
Yeah.
And then so now I'm in Leeds and I'm stoked, and I just finished soundcheck and having a beer. And that's it. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. How are you finding the big crowds? Is that something that's putting you off a little bit? Or is it...
No, not at all. My favorite part about music is inconsistency, and how I actually intentionally make it inconsistent. Because if I played, say, just like my acoustic guitar and did vocals every night to like small crowds, it would get a little redundant and boring. And so my goal is to always switch it to keep myself on my toes. And like we met in California, and I played for 20 people.
Yeah, something like that.
And then some of the other shows on the tour were as many as 500.
Yeah.
But it's fun to make it different every night. So to do a support tour for someone as popular and as awesome and as down to earth as Frank Turner, it feels at home for me on this stage as it does in a small town in California playing for 20 people. And the other thing I like to do is like when everybody gets used to me just playing my folk set with an acoustic guitar and vocalist, to show up the next time with my whole band.
Yeah.
And just keeping myself on my toes. So yeah, it's only one showing. So
is that something you plan on doing then, coming back to the UK with the band?
I was here with the band not
Yeah.
long ago, and the number of people that have asked me if this is my first visit to the UK is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I have spent so much time in the UK,
Yeah.
but honestly, I've only done 2 solo tours, 2006 and last year, and I brought my band, but we only played Bristol and London,
Yeah.
and the Revival tour was like the same time, so
Yeah.
we were conflicting with the
Yeah.
Revival tour, which is many of my peers
Yeah.
on the same stage, so most people are going to that.
Yeah.
But the Bristol and London shows are incredible.
Was there ever a possibility that you were going to, instead of Frank's tour, going to play the Revival tour? Because that's kind of crossing over.
No, there was no crossover on this. Chuck and Jill Reagan, who organized the Revival tour, do a terrific job of switching up
Yeah.
who's on it. So I was not invited on that section, and for me to be on all of the Revival tours would make it would defeat
Yeah.
the purpose, because it's supposed to collaborate with different people. But no conflict. I got this offer in April, said sure, and
Yeah.
here I am. And I just finished up a bunch of shows, in Australia and US and elsewhere, and actually had a little bit of time off at home and then came here. So
Did the shows differ at all? Did the Australian crowd different to the English crowd, different to the US crowd, or is it all kind of...
I think fans of independent music generally welcome you with open arms no matter where you are.
Yeah.
I think that's a real uniqueness with independent music, and that's why I've stuck in this community for so long.
Yeah.
So say in Perth, Australia, which is as far away as I can get from home, I feel as comfortable with the people at those shows
Yeah.
as I do in my city of Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah.
And it's vice versa. Frank's crowds are huge, but because we all come from the same independent community, I feel as comfortable with the people here to support him and his group.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, it's that's the only this community that we have all grown into. I wouldn't be playing music if it wasn't for this group of people.
Okay, 40 Mile, your new album, just came out on Extra Mile, and it's rather retrospective and introspective compared to like writing songs from about other people from their perspective. So because you've had such an interesting life, does that make writing songs easier, or does it make it harder?
Songs, like, I find it difficult to talk about my songwriting because it's not something I ever plan. In fact, every time I finish a record, I think, I don't want to go through this process again. It's daunting. For me, I don't know why. Maybe it's cathartic. Maybe it's too much to like focus on. I don't know. But like when I finished 40 Miler, this is an example of like how my brain works with music. When I finished recording 40 Miler and went on the road with it, I was nearly perplexed by the fact that new songs started showing up. And it's like, I'm like that kind of writer where like a song just goes, shows up, and I have to stop everything that I'm doing and focus on it. And it's just like overwhelming. Like, I gotta finish this. I don't know where the songs come from. People say that the new record has more hope. I'm not sure why. If it does, I'm thankful for it because it is true that I have been through a lot in my life, but no more than most other people. But with my writing, I often project. I channel some of these things that have happened to me and to a lot of my loved ones and friends and turn them into my songs. Many of my first person songs are actually about other people, and including 40 Miler. Many of the songs on 40 Miler. But I can't really answer the question because I don't know what compels me to write music. But nearly every time I finish a record, I think, maybe I should just write a book. Maybe I should go get a job doing carpentry. Maybe I should drive trucks. You know, like, and then here I go again. Here I go again on my own.
Has there been a point where you've thought about where you've not written music for a while and actually gone and done something completely different? And just...
Always. But I think that's the thing, you know, not Billy Bragg, Steve Earle, or before Steve Earle, Woody Guthrie would say, if you look around, there's plenty to write about. And Steve Earle would say, if you don't put anything in, nothing comes out. So if I never played music again, I would truly try every single day to make my life exciting and interesting. And I do play music, and I still try to make every day interesting. And it doesn't mean that I'm like bungee jumping. It could mean I'm at home, and instead of sleeping in, I'm going to get up at 5:30, and I'm going to watch the sunrise at the river with my dog. And then I'm going to go home and say, build a new chicken coop. And then I'm going to work really hard on making a perennial garden for my vegetables, and go to the store and steal some flowers from a big box store to make my yard more beautiful, and talk to the homeless guy who's scrapping cans and pushing a shopping cart, and find out how much money he makes when he sells those aluminum cans for scrap, and try to create a dialogue with people I don't normally talk to. Like, that's just how my brain works, and I do that with people that other folks might dislike. I like to be surrounded by inconsistencies, and that's why I ride freight trains. That's why if I'm not riding freight trains, I'm bicycling very far away and sleeping in the woods. That's why I don't know what's wrong with me.
You talked about riding freight trains. Is that always been something you've always done, or is that?
Yeah, I've ridden freight trains since I was a kid, and I mentioned Woody Guthrie before. I mean, I grew up listening to a lot of folk music, and a lot of folk music, American folk music, talks about transients and migrant workers illegally stowing away on freight trains to get from town to town to work. And I became fascinated with it when I was younger and started illegally riding freight trains from town to town in the southeast U.S. until I learned all the rails. And it's just, for me, it's a way of changing my perspective and seeing things differently. You know, there's something pretty intense about like carrying everything you own in a bag, or everything that you have with you in a bag, and having a 6-pack of beer and jumping on a train and hiding on a boxcar, and nowadays I have an iPod, put it in my iPod and listen to some music, and then we're sitting on top of like on 40 Miler there's a song called Drive or Pull. I think it's the second song on the record. An example would be like the things that I find in myself when I ride trains was I ended up in Lynchburg, Virginia, which is a small town, small city, only about 120 miles from where I live in Richmond. It parallels the train line parallels the James River. I was heading home. I'd been sleeping in the woods, had a fire going, and then a coal train came in. A coal train, big cars with coal loaded into the top, and I climbed up on it, and it was like midnight, and I had a panoramic view of the James River and rolling country fields with gardens and farms and cows and horse farms, and sitting up here by myself, the train's just slowly rolling down, and that night I was like, holy shit, I think tonight's the night I'm gonna do it. Bags packed light, foolish, go drink on the main line by the signal light. And I wrote the whole song, penned the whole song, riding that train in the middle of the night. And I just have to flip my perspective. I say this often. I think the most memorable things in your life are always the times when you challenge yourself and you put yourself somewhere that you're not used to. And like, you can do it, I can do it. Going back to early childhood, I want those memories. When I'm laying down the very last time, I want to know that I was constantly challenged and I feel fulfilled.
So it's the way to do it.
I guess.
Yeah.
Some people find fulfillment in not doing those things, and that's just as important as finding what makes you content.
Yeah, definitely.
I know I'm crazy.
Makes a lot of sense. The one thing I really want to ask you about was the just about Gabriel Prosser, and you campaigned for the removal of the parking lot and all that thing. And I remember when I saw you in California that you said it had actually been pulled up. I mean, how was that for you to see that being pulled up? And
joy, tears of joy. It's such a long story. And the question being about a man named Gabriel Prosser from Richmond, Virginia. It's an old story. I challenge anybody who looks at this to just take a moment and look up Gabriel Prosser on the internet and hear the story of the state-sanctioned murder of a man who happened to be enslaved in Virginia in the year of 1800, who challenged the establishment of slavery and tried to liberate himself and free himself and other slaves from the shackles of the slave system. I challenge you to look up this story and to research it in contemporary times in the city of Richmond, Virginia, and see what happened. It's a beautiful thing. Gabriel was murdered by the state, buried near Broad and 15th Street. Later, that area became a parking lot used for Virginia Commonwealth University, and the question becomes, is it right to pave over the remains of anyone, slave or not, and park cars over them? And that's a fairly simple question to answer. It is not. And I was a participant in a loosely knit network of people who opposed it, and after many years of me singing a song about Gabriel and a lot of work by people at home, activists, church groups, normal people, students, just working folks, the parking lot is no longer there. And I was thrilled to have been present. Thankfully, I was home the day that they put the first break in it, and it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful moment. Now it's a grassy field, and I have a chunk of the asphalt in my garden, and as long as I smoke cigarettes, which hopefully won't be that much longer, I'm just going to use it to put my fucking cigarettes out on, because that's all it's worth.
yeah, definitely.
Inspiring story. I am not responsible for the removal of it. I was a brick in the building of it. A lot of people lost their freedom temporarily from it by being arrested and stuff, and I did not. So my pure respect goes to those people.
Yeah, definitely. Finally, what's next for you? You know, you've done this tour. What's the?
I'm going home.
Yeah.
I've been on the road since March, and I will get home at the beginning of December, and I plan on spending the rest of the year at home with my family. And then I'll just be writing these songs that I'm trying not to write. I was thinking I'm learning how to finger pick the guitar. I spent so much time with Josh Small, who plays with me, and I'm starting to learn how to play. He's the best finger picker ever. But my music's getting really folky and mellow, and I think I'm gonna have to write a new record called Tim Berry, Adult Contemporary Folk Punk. Because I hate adult contemporary and I hate folk punk, so that's what I'm gonna call it. Maybe I'll make another record. I probably will, and I'll go on tour for a long time. But I plan on spending the winter with my family and riding trains and going camping and blah blah blah.
Awesome. Yeah.
In nickel and diming.